Ever wonder what to do with all those leftover yarn bits? Well, in today's tutorial I've got the perfect solution for you. A stunning finished scarf made entirely from scrap yarn using our Addi knitting machine. You can also be using your Sentro 48 for this tutorial, or either your Sentro 40 if you want. This is an easy beginner-friendly project that knits up super fast. So stick around and I'll show you step by step how to bring your scarf to life, and also how to calculate the size of scarf that you want as you make the scarf on your Addi or Sentro knitting machine. Before I even start this project, how do I know if I have enough scrap yarn to make what I want to make? Well, I have a size tube of the size of a beanie have made here at home, and then because I know that the finished scarf that I want to make is kind of double of this, because I want around 240 rows, and here I have 120. What I'm going to do is see how much yarn that I used here on my scales. So I'm gonna put here and scale it. I have around 75 grams, okay? So full skein is around normally 100 grams. So I know, because this scarf I'm gonna be using in a few rows I'm going to do this same work, which is gonna use double, but it's not all. So I'm calculating that I'm going to need around 200 grams of yarn, okay, because double this plus a little extra. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ball, any kitchen ball you have at home, and then use this as a tare here, and then I'm going to add the yarn inside the scraps that I have and that I want to use for this tutorial, and I'm just going to add them here to see if I have enough yarn. Okay, around 174 grams, and I'm going to add a little bit of black that I have, so let me show you here so you guys can see. Okay, so this is a little more than double of this piece here, which is a beanie size, okay? I have 120 rows on a tube mold of my Sentro here. Now that I know that I have enough scrap yarn to start this project, and it's always good if you measure any other project that you have at home, so you know how much yarn that other project that you have used. So now that I know how much scrap yarn that I have, all I have to do is really measure on me with a measurement tape that I'm gonna show you here, and then see how long I want this infinity scarf to be. Now that I know how much scrap yarn that I need and how many rows that I need according to the gauge I calculated before for you guys, I can start making my rows. So to do that, I'm going to be using waste yarn, and I'm going to be casting on every needle to work on the tube mold of my Addi knitting machine. And I'll make 3 or 4 rows with this waste yarn. Put your counter back to 0. And we're going to be making 240 rows, or around 230-240 rows for this scarf. And I'm going to start solid, not working, because a few rows I'm going to be working with 2 colors, but avoid that on the first 4 to 6 rows, okay? So I'm going to be making 6 rows with this gray here. So I made 6 rows with the gray. Now I'm going to cut this yarn. Now following this image that I have here on the side, that's the one I liked and I wanted to make similar. I'm going to be using these 2 colors next. I'm just gonna quickly show you. I did show in a few tutorials before how to do that, but not with 2 yarns at the same time. I'm going to be making 1 stitch with each color. So I'm going to add the blue first. Close this. We are not going to use this while working with 2 colors. I'm going to put the first one first. And that's what I liked about this scarf, that it uses a lot of yarn in different colors, and I could actually use all my waste yarn that I have. So now I put the yarn through the first needle and then through the second needle, and now the third needle will have the blue. Make sure you don't pull too much, otherwise it's gonna open this. And then the fourth one will have the green. And I'm going to be swapping like that the entire row. So go very slow on the first few rows so you don't miss stitches, don't drop any stitches. Pull if you can, just to make it tight. And then keep swapping the yarn. I'm going to exchange the colors a little less, I think. But I want to make it very similar. So this is how I'm going to be changing colors in every single row for 5 rows, okay? I'm going to make 5 on this color and then before I change to the next color. Be careful that one is always behind and one is always in the front. And then here I'm starting my second row. What's gonna happen is where I have the loop, the blue loop on the bottom, I'm going to have always blue. And where I have the green, I'm going to have always green, so you know. But again, for this scarf you can make just stripes if you prefer, if you may think is easier. I just really wanted that a similar one to the one I saw because, I don't know, I just like this style. But if you want to make just solid, just keep making just solid colors and changing every 4 to 6 rows to another color. Now guys, I'm going to leave down in the description below, I'm going to leave a link for the written pattern for this. It's in my blog as well, knittingmachinepatterns.com, and then there I'm going to leave the diagram if you want to follow the same exact one that I made here, okay? And the number of rows for each one of the colors, because I think it's gonna look really pretty when I finish. So just to explain a little better, to work this way, what's gonna happen is I'm going to be working with one strand in the front that will grab the peg, and that's the color that's gonna show on the front. The other one that's gonna be behind will be behind the work and will be hidden in that same stitch. And then to exchange the colors, all I'm going to be doing is this and this. So I'm going to put one in the front, the other one behind. And then swapping, one in the front, one behind, swapping again, one in the front, the other one behind. Now one thing that I forgot to mention, most of the yarn that I have here is worsted yarn, and worsted yarn works better for this type of technique where you change the stitches, because it doesn't show as much the bottom as you can see here. There's the other one, there's the other yarn strand going on the back of it. So when you use worsted yarn, you can't see that much. If you use double knit yarn, it's gonna be able to see what's going on the back, which are these loops here. Okay, so in between them, I'm going to use a solid color. I'll pull this tied again, and then we're gonna make a knot on the next row. And then make 4 rows with this yellow, and to change to another color again. I'm going to go ahead and make all my 200 something rows, and then I'll come back with you just to show you how I'm going to measure as I go, as I get to 200 rows, to see if I have the right size that I wanted. Now, guys, now I have around 112 rows here, and I am a little more than halfway on my project, just to show you guys how I'm measuring this. I have around 62 or 24 inches. I want double of that. So I'm going to be making 220 rows instead of 240, because I think it will be enough, because this stretch, and this is how the work's looking like. I really like it. I think it's gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna look great. So I made a few rows with only stripes because I just got tired, and I saw that stripes, black and white stripes, they match a lot with color changes like this. So now, after I made all my stripes, I'm going to make a row with this gray, and then I'm going to restart this work here. I'm just going to repeat the same thing I did on the other side. So when you wraps, kind of wraps like this, as you can see, it's the same work here and here on the inside. So that's what I'm doing now. And also, just one more thing, as you repeat the pattern here, you can actually fold on the place where you at, so you know what you have to do next. That's what I'm doing here. So I know that now I have to make 6 rows with white and red, and then 3 more with the white and gray. So that's what I'm doing, so you guys know. I have here 210 rows, and I have already 120 centimeters. So I'm just going to make a few more rows with the gray color, and then I'm going to cast off the stitches and finish this off. Grab a tapestry needle with some waste yarn. Leave a little tail on the last yarn so we can bind off the stitches later. And then make a full row without the yarn now. All the way until you reach the stitch just before this one. And then we can start removing all these stitches of our machine. With a contrasting color, so it's easy to spot the stitches, also to seam with the Kitchener stitch later. You can always put your finger on top of the next stitch, that way you won't come off of your machine. And guys, don't forget to hit the like button if you like this tutorial. Subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate that. I have a lot of great tutorials if you go through my playlists as well. I am so curious to see how this is gonna look like on the front. Now, before we have a look at it, we need to make knots and finish all these stitches here. I'm actually just gonna make knots where I can and just cut it. Make sure you pull them tight because they're going to look very open on the front. So make sure you pull as much as you can before you close with the second knot. Otherwise, you'll have holes like this one on the front, so make sure you pull them. And then just make knots where you can. Make 3 knots just to make sure, because I'm not gonna be hiding all these tails. I'm just gonna simply cut them, because just close this tube and it won't show anyway. Okay, so just make sure you deal with all these knots before you flip it inside out. And then I'm just gonna show you how to seam both ends together now. Now, after finishing all the knots on the back, I'm going to finally flip it over. I'm so curious to see how this looks like. Let's see, guys, what we have here. Oh yes, this is gorgeous. Look at it. I love it. Let's see the other side. Now I'm going to leave this side to the inside, because as you can see, there's a few places where it doesn't really match and it doesn't look as nice as the front. Now for this part here, and that's why I said it's really important to use a contrasting color so you can see the stitches really well. And so what I'm going to do is, my tail is right here, and so I'm going to grab the very next stitch, which is this one. It forms a loop like this, and then the very next one, and just put the needle through both. So I'm going to actually be stitching each stitch 2 times, like this one. So this one here, make sure they are not twisted as well. I'm going to grab here and into the very next one, like this. Then I can remove this tail. And then see, it's coming out of here. I'm going to the very next one, which is here. And then to the bottom, I'm going to grab this same one that I just made, that I just got before, and then this one, the next one here, this way. And then just one more time here. The loop's coming out of here, so I'm going to grab this one and then this one. So I'm going to go all around until I have just a little bit like this left. And then what I have to do is I have to put these few stitches through another yarn tail. But I'm going to explain that in a second. So do that until you have a little bit left, so we open, so we can remove this waste yarn before we close the whole tube. Now, when you have just this little bit left to seam, what we're going to do is grab a yarn, another piece of yarn, and we're going to put through this yarn through all the stitches here, this way. Just grabbing the second loop of each one of them, just to secure them so we can remove this waste yarn before we close the whole tube. Otherwise, if you close the tube, it's only 4 stitches here. So just pass through, secure them all, and then we are ready to remove this yarn from the inside here. I actually closed too much. You can probably leave a little more stitches to do that, okay? Because then it's easier to spot inside. So here is the yarn that's running through them all. It should be this one. You just need to make sure you grab the right one. So you're gonna pull it all. And remove this yarn from the inside. Otherwise, if you close the entire tube, you can't really remove this waste yarn after. That's why we have to do it right now. Needle through that same tail we were using to seam before, and finish seaming the remaining stitches. So guys, this scarf is ready. I'm just gonna try it on to show you guys how it looks like. I think it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. I love how it worked out. And it's quite different from the one I saw on Pinterest, which I enjoy as well. I like how I could use all my scrap yarn, almost all of it. And so I have a little bit of scrap yarn left. I'm gonna show you guys here. That's what I have left. It's not much. So what I'm going to do is, and you can do as well, this is a project, this is a messy bun with an elastic headband on the top. So if you are like this project, it's a really fast project as well. You can make this in 1 hour only. And I explain all this in the next video that I'm going to leave here for you guys if you want to make this tutorial next. Thank you all for watching. I love, love, love this scarf. I'm gonna be wearing for sure this winter. If you find anything helpful in this content, please subscribe to my channel, leave me your like, and I see you in my next tutorial. Thank you for watching, guys.